Look at the timeline of human history, and you'll find the Indus Valley civilization standing right alongside ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. Recent excavations in 2026 used new radiocarbon dates to trace the urban origins of its largest city, Mohenjodaro, all the way back to 3300 BCE. At its peak, this single settlement housed at least 40,000 people. Yet, if you walk through the ruins looking for the traditional markers of Bronze Age power, massive palaces, sprawling royal tombs, or giant monuments dedicated to kings, you won't find them. Instead, the residents built their city using a mathematically precise grid system. Every neighborhood was planned out with straight intersecting streets oriented to the cardinal directions, standardizing living spaces across a vast urban area. They directed their immense resources toward public health. Almost every courtyard featured a private well for clean drinking water, and the city center housed a massive public pool known as the Great Bath. Waste was managed by a highly sophisticated network of covered drains running beneath the alleyways. The physical evidence points to a society that operated without a top-down autocrat. These people worked collectively to maintain a high quality of life, organizing their civilization around shared wealth and broad access to essential resources. This civilization built a sprawling trade network that reached all the way to the Persian Gulf. We know they were highly active merchants. Yet, unlike the hieroglyphs of Egypt or the cuneiform of Mesopotamia, their written language remains entirely unread. The Harappans documented their transactions using thousands of small steatite seals, featuring animal carvings alongside a pictographic script. The problem is twofold. We have no bilingual artifact to translate them, and the inscriptions are incredibly brief. The longest continuous text contains just 26 symbols. This silence leaves us unable to verify how they governed themselves, what they valued in their private lives, or how they viewed the neighboring cultures they traded with. Because we cannot read their language, we have to look to their art to piece together their ideology. We are forced to rely on ambiguous iconography to try and understand what the Harappans actually believed. The most famous artifact from the region is Seal 420. It depicts a tricephalic or three-faced figure with a horned headdress, sitting cross-legged in an advanced yoga position, completely surrounded by wild animals like rhinos and tigers. This single piece of carved stone has ignited decades of intense academic debate. Early archaeologists claimed it was a proto-Shiva, an early version of the Hindu lord of animals. Others look at the chest jewelry and dangling waistbands and argue it depicts a female mother goddess, or perhaps a divine buffalo man. The fact that a single image can support such wildly different interpretations highlights how much of their spiritual world remains open to question. For a long time, the accepted historical narrative was that this peaceful society met a violent end. In the 1940s, British archaeologist Mortimer Wheeler proposed that nomadic Indo-Aryan invaders swept in and slaughtered the Harappans. Wheeler based his claim on groups of unburied skeletons discovered scattered in the upper, most recent levels of the Mohenjo-Daro ruins. Modern forensics paint a very different picture. The skeletons show no signs of war trauma or a massacre. Instead, these were hasty, late-stage burials by a population trying to survive in a city that was already collapsing. The true destroyer of the Indus Valley was the environment. Around 1900 BCE, the region experienced severe climate shifts. The Saraswati River began drying up, while other areas suffered massive flooding and severe outbreaks of mosquito-borne malaria. The dense urban infrastructure that once kept the population healthy became stagnant and unlivable. These great cities succumbed to crop failures and disease, forcing the survivors to abandon their homes. The people of the Indus Valley did not go extinct. When the urban centers failed, the population decentralized. They relocated to smaller provincial villages and survived by adopting new, drought-resistant summer crops like rice and millet. Over several centuries, these communities dispersed. They migrated eastward into the upper Gangetic Valley and southward into central India, carrying their agricultural knowledge and cultural practices with them. We can see this transition into new, distinct societies in the archaeological record. Excavations reveal the emergence of new tribal groups and warrior classes, complete with advanced weaponry and solid wheel wooden chariots. By the time the cities were empty, Harappan traditions had already dispersed, moving from concentrated urban blocks to thousands of small rural farming communities. The synthesis continued with the arrival of Indo-Aryan groups. These semi-nomadic tribes brought with them the Rigveda, a massive collection of oral traditions, meticulously memorized and passed down through generations. As these new arrivals settled among the descendants of the Indus Valley, their cultures collided and began to intertwine, eventually being codified into ancient texts. You can see the echoes of this synthesis today. The grand hemispherical stupas of later empires and the iconography of global religions like Hinduism and Buddhism bear striking resemblances to the public baths and horned deities of the Harappans. The Indus Valley civilization never truly vanished. They adapted, migrated, and merged with new cultures, becoming the living, breathing foundation of modern South Asia.